All right, so we're diving deep today, folks. And get this, we're time traveling to 2025 to see what the future holds for mobile tech. Our crystal ball? Well, it's actually Mobile Magazine. They've gathered a whole bunch of predictions straight from the people shaping the tech world. We're talking CEOs, CTOs, the whole nine yards. And we're going to break down what they see coming. From AI that's, well, a little more advanced than just setting timers, to sustainable tech that might actually help us tackle e-waste. Oh, and we can't forget the race to 6G. It's going to be a wild ride, so buckle up.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting here is that we're not talking about some far-off sci-fi fantasy. These predictions are rooted in what's happening right now, in the industry, I mean. And they touch on things that could seriously change how we live and work in just a few short years.
Okay, so let's start with something that's on everyone's mind. Sustainability. We all know e-waste is a problem, right? But here's a crazy stat. It's actually growing faster than we can recycle it.
It is a tough one, for sure. We're constantly bombarded with new devices, upgrades, and the old ones, well, they become obsolete so fast. But it's not just about the sheer volume of stuff. These devices are getting more and more complex, which makes it harder and more expensive to recycle responsibly. So that puts a huge burden on the environment. And of course, it drains our finite resources.
So what are the masterminds at these tech companies saying about all this? Are they just going to keep pumping out new phones every year?
Well, there was one prediction that really caught my eye. It's from Lenovo. They're thinking long-term. They believe the future is all about modular, durable, and get this, recyclable laptop designs. Imagine, instead of replacing your whole laptop, you could just swap out certain components, need more RAM, click, it's in, new motherboard, snap, done. You're basically upgrading instead of replacing, extending the life of your device and cutting down on waste.
Now, that's a pretty cool idea. I bet it would be a lot easier on the wallet, too.
Absolutely. It could change how we think about buying tech, encourage people to invest in devices that last longer, instead of giving in to the pressure to upgrade all the time.
But this whole circular economy thing, it's not just about hardware. The telecom industry is feeling the pressure, too. There's a big push to reduce their carbon footprint
Yeah.
and, embrace refurbished equipment.
Hold on, refurbished. So are you saying my next phone could be someone else's,
Yeah.
gently used device?
It's more common than you might think. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. From a sustainability standpoint, that is. But there's a catch. David Evans from TXO, a company specializing in asset recovery. He pointed out that OEMs face a tricky situation. They want to be seen as eco-friendly, right? But they also need to sell new devices. So pushing refurbished stuff too hard could hurt their sales.
So are these companies like TXO just for good PR then? Or are we actually seeing a real push for change in how tech is made and used? Is this circular economy really the future? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While some might see these initiatives as just window dressing, there's a growing feeling that real change is happening. But it's going to take a joint effort,
Yeah.
from companies and consumers alike. We need more transparency in how things are made, better solutions for what happens to devices at the end of their life, and maybe most importantly, a shift in our own consumption habits.
Speaking of shifts, how we work has gone through a major one, hasn't it? Remember all those back to the office pushes?
Yeah, well, hybrid work seems to be the new normal now, and that comes with its own set of hurdles, especially when it comes to, collaboration and building a solid company culture when everyone's spread out.
And that's where Zoom comes in. They're predicting a huge investment in AI-powered tools, all designed to make collaboration smooth for both remote and in-office workers.
Right, and Steve Rafferty, Zoom's head of EMEA, he believes these tools will not only boost productivity, but also level the playing field, so to speak, making sure everyone feels included no matter where they are. Imagine AI helping you manage your workflow, schedule meetings across time zones, you name it, and all personalized to your liking.
Okay, that does sound pretty amazing in theory, but also, I don't know, a bit Big Brother-ish. Like, how much access will these AI tools have to our work, our data, our lives even?
It's a valid concern, no doubt, and it leads us to another major prediction, the rise of AI. Not just as a helpful tool, but as something more, integrated into our work lives, you could say. Ciena, a networking and software company, they suggest that AI agents will fundamentally change how we work by 2025.
They actually think we're on the verge of zero-effort, zero-touch AI agents.
Yeah.
Basically, they anticipate our needs before we even know we have them.
Jürgen Henthier, their international CTO, called them mind readers. Need to book a flight, schedule a meeting, write an email. Your AI agent will handle it, supposedly without you lifting a finger.
Wow, I'm not sure if that's incredibly helpful or just plain creepy. It feels like a massive jump from where we are now.
It is a big leap. AI is already optimizing network infrastructure, sure, and powering user-facing apps, but this takes it further. It raises a lot of questions about privacy, autonomy, even the potential for misuse. Are we really ready to hand over so much control to algorithms?
You've definitely given me something to think about. It's not just about shiny new tech anymore. It's about how we interact with it on a fundamental level. But before we go too deep down that rabbit hole, let's switch gears to something that's generating a lot of buzz. 6G.
Ah, yes, 6G. There's a lot of hype around it, and for good reason. It's not just about faster speeds. It's about a whole new level of connectivity, one that could blur the lines between the physical and digital worlds.
Okay, so paint me a picture. Are we talking virtual reality meetings, holographic phone calls, maybe even teleportation?
Well, we might not be teleporting just yet, but the possibilities are vast, for sure. However, to get there, we need a key piece of the puzzle. Open RAN. Keysight Technologies, they believe Open RAN will be crucial for a smooth transition to 6G.
Open RAN. That sounds like something straight out of Star Wars, to be honest. Can you break it down for me?
Imagine building with Legos, but instead of using bricks from just one brand, you can use bricks from different manufacturers, and they all fit together perfectly. That's the basic idea behind Open RAN. It lets different vendors work together, creating a more flexible and adaptable network infrastructure.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But why should the average person, scrolling through their social media feed, care about Open RAN? What's in it for them?
Well, Open RAN could lead to faster internet speeds, more innovation in the mobile space, and potentially even lower costs for consumers. It's all about breaking down those proprietary walls that exist in current network setups and encouraging a more collaborative approach.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already, from mountains of e-waste to AI butlers practically, but we're not done yet. Mobile Magazine had a whole lot more predictions for 2025.
It really is a whirlwind of change, isn't it? And the thing is, these predictions, they're all connected. They're not just isolated trends. They all feed into each other.
You're right, they're all intertwined. Like, take the rise of hybrid work, for example. It's not just changing where we work, it's driving the need for better collaboration tools,
Yeah.
you know, which then fuels the development of even more advanced AI. It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. And we can't forget the foundation it's all built on, the network infrastructure. All these cool innovations they rely on having strong, adaptable networks, ones that can handle the demands of this hyper-connected world.
Which brings us back to 6G and Open RAN. It's kind of mind-blowing to think that we're already laying the groundwork for tech that most people can't even wrap their heads around yet.
It really shows you how fast the tech world moves. We're still trying to grasp 5G, and the industry's already 2 steps ahead, thinking about what's next.
Okay, so let's talk about those AI agents for a second. I'm still trying to picture a virtual assistant that can practically read my mind. Isn't there a risk of becoming, I don't know, overly reliant on these things?
There's definitely a potential downside to all this convenience. If AI is handling everything, like scheduling meetings, writing emails, are we going to lose some essential skills ourselves? Will we become so dependent on these digital helpers that we forget how to think for ourselves?
That's a bit of a scary thought, to be honest. Makes you wonder about the impact on education and the workforce, right? Will future generations need to learn totally different skills to thrive in a world where AI is everywhere?
It's something educators and policymakers need to think about, for sure. The skills that are valuable today might not be as relevant in a world where AI can automate so many tasks. But it's not all doom and gloom. AI could also make knowledge and resources more accessible, making it easier for people from all walks of life to learn and grow.
That's a really important point. AI should be about empowering people, not replacing them. But let's circle back to sustainability for a moment. You mentioned this push for a more circular economy in tech, but is that really possible? I mean, the tech industry is all about innovation and constant upgrades. How do you reconcile those two things?
It's a tough challenge, no doubt. Right now, the incentives are all messed up. Companies make money selling new devices, and consumers are basically trained to want the latest and greatest. But what if we could change that? What if durability and repairability were rewarded, and consumers were encouraged to keep their devices longer?
Okay, I like where you're going with this, but what would that look like in real life?
Well, one idea is to shift from ownership to access. Imagine subscribing to a service that gives you the latest tech, but instead of owning it outright, you're leasing it. When a new model comes out, you swap your old device for the new one. The company takes care of refurbishing or recycling the old device, keeping it in circulation, so to speak.
That's a pretty interesting idea. Seems like a win-win for consumers and the environment. But wouldn't that require a huge change in how the tech industry operates?
Oh, absolutely. Companies would need to rethink their whole business model. But if we're serious about tackling e-waste, we might need to think outside the box.
It sounds like we're at a crossroads. We can stick with disposable tech, or we can try to build a more sustainable future. But it's not just up to the tech companies, is it? We, the consumers, have a role to play too.
You got it. Every purchase, every upgrade, it sends a message. By demanding more sustainable options, by supporting companies that prioritize the environment, we can help steer the industry in the right direction.
So it's not about feeling helpless, right? It's about realizing that our choices actually matter.
Exactly. It's about being active participants, shaping the future of tech, not just passive consumers taking whatever's given to us.
Okay, back to the predictions for a sec. One that really stood out to me was about the cloud. Gartner is predicting record-breaking IT spending in Europe, with cloud and security leading the way. What's driving this huge cloud adoption, do you think?
It's a bunch of things coming together, really. Remote and hybrid work has created a massive demand for cloud-based solutions, so teams can collaborate from anywhere. And at the same time, businesses are seeing the benefits, the cost-effectiveness, the scalability, it's all there.
So it's not just about convenience, it's about smart business too. But with all these companies moving to the cloud, doesn't that raise some red flags about data security?
Security is a huge concern, absolutely. As we entrust more and more to cloud providers, we need to make sure those security measures are top-notch. That's why cybersecurity is another area where we're seeing huge investments.
It makes sense. It's like if you build a bigger, more complex house, you need better locks and a better security system to protect it.
Precisely. And as the cloud landscape changes, we're seeing a trend toward multi-cloud environments.
Multi-cloud, what's that?
Think of it like this. Different departments in your company using different cloud providers for their specific needs. Maybe marketing uses one for their email campaigns, while finance uses another for their accounting software.
So it's about finding the right tool for the job, even if it means working with multiple providers. But doesn't that make things more complicated?
It can, for sure. Managing a multi-cloud setup can be tricky, especially when it comes to security and data integration. But Ralph Jordan from Lenovo sees this as a big opportunity for resellers to step up and help businesses navigate these complexities to be their guide.
Like a trusted Sherpa leading them through the digital jungle. Speaking of guides, we should talk about the physical stuff, the infrastructure behind all this digital innovation, fiber deployments, I mean.
Right, the demand for faster, more reliable internet, it's only going to grow in the next few years. And as we move toward data-heavy technologies like 6G, fiber optic cables are going to be essential.
So it seems pretty straightforward, right? Just lay more fiber, problem solved.
If only it were that simple. Near Hollander from Amdocs Mobile Networks, he warns that service providers need to rethink their strategies to keep up with this demand. It's not just about laying more fiber. It's about doing it smarter and more efficiently.
So what does that look like in practice?
It means streamlining the permitting process, working with local communities to minimize disruption, and using new technologies like microtrenching to reduce the cost and time of installation.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a fiber optic revolution. But as we build these digital highways, we need to make sure no one gets left behind, right?
Absolutely. Digital equity is crucial. We need to make sure everyone has access to affordable, reliable internet, no matter where they live or their economic background.
It's about bridging the digital divide, not making it worse. Okay, so we've covered a lot in this section, from the ins and outs of multi-cloud environments to the importance of fiber deployments. But let's zoom out for a second and think big picture.
You're right. It's easy to get lost in the details.
What are the main takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
One of the most important things, I think, is that we're not just passive passengers on this tech roller coaster. We have a voice. We have choices. We can actively shape the digital future we want.
It's about being informed, engaged, empowered.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is all about, giving you the knowledge and insights you need to navigate this ever-changing world of mobile tech.
We've explored a lot, but there's always more to uncover. After a quick break, we'll wrap things up and talk about what these predictions might mean for you, our listeners. Stick around. All right, we're back and ready for the final stretch of our journey into the mobile predictions for 2025. We've talked about AI, sustainability, and enough tech jargon to make anyone's head spin.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I think what's really striking is how these predictions show us a future that's both exciting and, well, a bit unnerving.
I know exactly what you mean. On one hand, we have these amazing advancements that could completely change how we live, work, connect. But then there's this other side, these big questions about, The ethics and the potential downsides. All this rapid technological change.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. We need to embrace innovation, but also be aware of the possible consequences. And that's where you, the listener, come in.
Right, we've talked a lot about the big players, the companies, the industry leaders, the ones driving these changes. But ultimately, the future of mobile tech isn't decided in some boardroom. It's shaped by the choices of millions of people.
Exactly. Every time you buy a new phone, download an app, interact with technology, you're kind of casting a vote for the kind of digital future you want to see.
So it's not about feeling powerless, right? It's about realizing that your decisions actually make a difference.
Think about it. If everyone demanded sustainably produced devices, companies would have to adapt. They'd have no choice. If consumers pushed back against invasive data collection, we could build a more privacy-focused digital world.
So how do we turn that awareness into action? What can our listeners do to make a real difference?
Well, it starts with being an informed consumer. Do your research before buying a new gadget. Look for companies that are transparent about their practices, about their commitment to sustainability. Support organizations that are fighting for ethical AI and data privacy.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. Challenge the status quo. Demand better from the companies you support.
Yeah, and be mindful of your own digital habits. Do you really need to upgrade your phone every year? Are you okay with how much data you're sharing online? Even small changes in your behavior can have a big impact.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether. It's about using our collective power as consumers to guide the industry in a direction that aligns with our values.
Exactly. The future of mobile tech isn't set in stone. It's something we're creating together every day.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we will leave you with one final thought. Imagine yourself in 2025. What does your ideal digital world look like? What role does technology play in your life? Is it a tool that empowers you, connects you, improves your well-being? Or does it feel intrusive, overwhelming, out of control?
Everyone's answer will be different, of course. But the important thing is to be intentional about the kind of digital future you want. Don't just let it happen, shape it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mobile predictions for 2025. We hope it sparked some curiosity and given you plenty to think about.
Remember, the future of mobile tech is in your hands.
Until next time, stay curious.